They say time steals everything, our strength, our certainty, even our face in the mirror. But what if time isn't a thief at all? What if growing older doesn't take away from us, but returns everything we once ignored? The sleepless nights we never understood, the tears we once hid, the love we never learned to name. With every year, something quietly shifts. The noise fades, the illusions fall, and in the silence, a strange truth begins to speak. Not about winning, not about success, but about who we truly are when no one is watching. This is not a journey of losing time. This is a pilgrimage of gaining truth. And once you step into it, nothing inside you will ever be the same again. Subscribe now to Gentle Season, and let us walk into the years we once feared. There's a moment in life when birthdays stop feeling like celebrations. The candles grow quieter. The laughter sounds distant. And for the first time, we begin to count not how many years we have lived, but how many we may still have left. In my early years, time felt endless. I rushed through days, ran through dreams, convinced that everything important was waiting somewhere ahead. I believed joy lived in tomorrow. I believed answers lived in success. I believed wisdom lived in the voices of others. But time, it doesn't shout. It whispers. It speaks in the sigh of an empty room after someone has left, in the way a familiar face slowly changes, in the way our own hands begin to look like someone we once called mother or father. At first, I fought it. I believed that aging was a loss, a fading, a quiet surrender. I thought youth was a treasure, and every wrinkle was a debt I never agreed to pay. I hid from mirrors. I chased distractions. I tried to outrun a clock that never once chased me back. Yet somewhere between the speeding years and the sleepless nights, I discovered something unsettling. Time isn't our enemy. Time is our witness. It watched me break. It watched me rise. It watched me pretend to be strong when I was not. And it waited patiently for the day I would finally listen. Growing older didn't steal my fire. It simply stripped away the masks. It asked me, quietly, firmly, to stop performing, to stop proving, to stop begging the world to tell me who I am. There is a strange silence that comes with age, not the silence of loneliness, but the silence of understanding, when you stop chasing noise and begin hearing your own heartbeat again, when survival turns into reflection, when hurry turns into meaning. I began to see my life not as a race, but as a landscape. Some valleys I crawled through, some storms nearly drowned me, some sunsets took my breath away. But all of it, every scar, every detour, was never wasted, because time doesn't take, it reveals. And as I stepped into this quiet, unspoken journey, I finally understood growing older is not the end of something. It is the beginning of seeing clearly. There are lessons we read in books, and there are lessons life carves into our skin. The kind that do not speak in words, but in memory. The kind that don't come gently, but through heartbreak, disappointment, and nights we never spoke about again. In my younger days, I believed pain was something to escape. I believed mistakes were signs of weakness. I believed failure was proof that I was not enough. So I hid my wounds. I buried my doubts. I pretended to know everything, while silently fearing I knew nothing at all. But time has a way of teaching differently. It teaches through people who leave without warning, through dreams that collapse without apology, through tears we wipe in the dark where no one else can see. It breaks us, not to destroy us, but to remove the parts of us that were never real to begin with. One of the first truths I learned was this: not every loss is a tragedy. Some losses are guidance. Some endings are protection. Some doors close not to punish us, but to turn us away from places we were never meant to stay. I learned that forgiveness is not about saying it's okay. It's about saying, I will no longer carry this pain. That strength is not loud. It does not shout. True strength is a quiet decision to rise again after everything in you has fallen. I learned that the world will not always be fair. People will not always be kind. But bitterness is a choice. And peace is a form of courage. I began to understand that every scar I carry is not a symbol of defeat, but of survival. Every wrong turn taught me something my pride refused to hear. Every goodbye taught me something my heart wasn't ready to learn. And slowly, I stopped asking, why did this happen to me? I began whispering, what is this trying to teach me? Because the truth is, life rarely gives us answers. It gives us lessons. And those lessons shape us, sculpt us, sharpen us into someone we could never have become without them. Growing older is not about collecting years. It is about collecting truths. And those truths, they do not come gently. They are carved. There was a time when I believed success meant being seen, being praised, being chosen. I thought happiness lived in achievement, in applause, in the eyes of people who barely knew my name. I ran after dreams I didn't truly want, all because I thought they would make me worthy. But years have a way of changing the definition of everything. Slowly, I began to understand that success is not about climbing higher. It is about feeling lighter. It is not measured in trophies, titles, or how loudly the world claps. It is measured in how peacefully you can sleep at night. I used to chase moments that looked beautiful but felt empty. I filled my days with busyness, mistaking it for purpose. I believe I had to constantly prove something. To others, to myself, to time. But with every year, the noise began to fade. The more I lived, the more I realized happiness is not found in celebration. It is found in quiet mornings, in the first sip of coffee, in the laughter of someone you trust, in knowing you no longer have to perform. I learned that sometimes the richest people are not the ones who have everything, but the ones who need less. That peace is a form of wealth. That rest is a form of wisdom. That doing what you love, even if no one sees it, is still a victory. There came a day when I stopped asking, how far can I go? And I started asking, how true can I live? I began to see success not as a race, but as alignment between what I show and who I really am, between what I give and what I truly feel, between the life I wanted and the life I actually lived. And once I understood this, I no longer envied the storm. I began to envy the stillness. Growing older did not make me give up on dreams. It made me choose better ones. Ones that do not demand the sacrifice of my soul. Ones that feel like home. Because happiness is not something we chase. It is something we allow. There's a quiet kind of courage that time teaches us. Not the courage to conquer, but the courage to release. To unclench the fist we kept closed for too long. To walk away from things that once felt impossible to live without. In my younger years, I held on to everything. Dreams that no longer fit me. People who no longer saw me, versions of myself that no longer existed. I believed letting go meant losing. I believed release meant failure. So I gripped tightly, even when it hurt. But time is honest, and it whispers a truth we all must face. Not everything we carry is meant to stay. I began to see how much weight I held. Old anger, silent grief, unspoken expectations. I carried memories like stones in my pocket, hoping they would someday explain the pain they once caused. But stones don't turn into answers. They only sink us deeper. Letting go was never sudden. It was quiet. It was the moment I stopped arguing with reality. The moment I stopped trying to rewrite endings. The moment I whispered to myself, it happened, it's over. I survived. It didn't mean I no longer cared. It meant I finally cared for myself. I learned that forgiveness is not a gift to those who hurt us. It is freedom for the ones still bleeding. I learned that walking away does not mean we are weak. It means our healing matters more than our history. There's a strange power in closing doors without hate, in saying goodbye without bitterness, in choosing peace over pride. Letting go doesn't erase what was real. It simply makes space for what is next. And as I released what no longer held life within it, I discovered something unexpected. Space, breath, a softness I had not felt in years. The kind of silence that is not empty but open, because growing older is not just about holding wisdom. It is about releasing weight. And in that release, we begin to rise. As the years pass, we learn that not everyone who walks beside us is meant to stay. Some people appear like seasons, brief, beautiful, and gone before we understand why they came. Others remain like roots, unseen, quiet, but holding us together when everything else falls apart. In youth, I believed relationships were about presence. about how often someone called, how many promises they made, how loudly they claimed to care. I thought love lived in grand gestures, in words repeated, in constant reassurance. But time reveals a different truth. The people who truly love us do not always speak the most. They show up when the room is silent. They stay when the storm arrives. They understand our pauses, our silence, even our worst days. They don't demand we be perfect to deserve their presence. I also learned that not every person I lost was a tragedy. Some goodbyes were quiet blessings. Some absences made space for peace. Some hearts, no matter how deeply we love them, could never walk the same path we chose for ourselves. The older I grew, the more I understood love is not proven by staying. It is proven by sincerity. And sincerity has no audience. It speaks in the way someone remembers your pain, in the way someone stands beside you without needing you to shine. I let go of the need for many. I began to value the few, the real, the ones who don't just celebrate my smiles, but recognize the weight behind them. And perhaps the greatest truth of all, sometimes the most important relationship we will ever repair is the one with ourselves. Learning to forgive the versions of us that didn't know better. Speaking kindly to the reflection that once faced our harshest judgment. Family may not be blood. Love may not be romance. And loyalty may not be loud. Some of the strongest bonds are woven in silence, tested by distance and proven by time. Growing older doesn't isolate us. It filters our circle. And what remains is truth. There comes a moment in life when the mirror stops showing us flaws and starts showing us stories. The lines around our eyes, once feared, now speak of laughter we once lived. The scars we try to hide now remind us of battles we survived. In youth, I chased perfection. I wanted to be unbreakable, unbothered, untouched by flaws. I believed that to be loved, I had to be polished. To be respected, I had to be flawless. I thought vulnerability was weakness, and mistakes were shame. But the years have a way of softening our vision. One day, I looked at myself and no longer saw what was missing. I saw what remained. The strength behind tired eyes. The courage behind healed wounds. The quiet resilience of someone who has fallen, but never stayed down. I learned that perfection is not real. It is an illusion crafted by fear. Real beauty lives in authenticity, in the gentle acceptance of who we are, even when we are not who we once hoped to be. I began to understand that the most admirable people are never the untouchable ones, but the honest ones, the ones who admit they are still learning, the ones who carry pain with grace, the ones who do not hide their cracks, because they know light enters through them. With time, I stopped apologizing for my humanity. I stopped hiding my uncertainty. I stopped pretending I had every answer. And in doing so, I found something I never expected: peace. I no longer wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be real. There is strength in saying, I am still healing. There is courage in admitting, I made mistakes. There is beauty in becoming softer, not harder, after everything life has done to us. Growing older did not make me weaker. It made me gentler. And in that gentleness, I found a truth stronger than perfection. There was a time when silence frightened me. I filled every quiet moment with voices, music, distractions, anything to avoid hearing my own thoughts. I believed that constant movement meant living, that noise meant importance, that stillness was a sign of emptiness. But as the years passed, I began to discover a different kind of silence, a silence that does not echo loneliness, but offers refuge, a silence that doesn't feel empty, but full. I started to notice how the loudest places often held the weakest truths, while the quiet ones held the deepest. The older I grew, the less I craved attention, and the more I longed for peace. Not the peace found in perfect moments, but the peace that remains even in imperfect ones. I stopped chasing rooms where I had to shout to be heard. I began choosing spaces where even my silence was understood. I no longer needed the world to approve of my choices. I needed only my heart to rest within them. Peace, I learned, is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of clarity. It's the calm that remains after accepting we cannot control everything. It's the strength to say no without guilt and to walk away without anger. There's a profound quiet that comes with wisdom, the quiet of no longer needing to prove, the quiet of choosing rest over rush, the quiet of knowing that some battles are no longer ours to fight. I let go of arguments I would once have clung to. I released the desire to be right. I discovered the relief of simply being at peace. And in that peace, I found energy returning, joy returning, life returning, not loud but steady, because growing older teaches us this. Noise may thrill, but peace heals. There comes a time when life no longer feels like something to chase, but something to understand, when we stop asking what we can take from the world and begin asking what we are meant to leave behind. It is in these later years, when the rush has faded, that truth finally steps forward. I used to believe wisdom was found in knowing everything, but now I see wisdom lives in knowing what to release, what to cherish, and what to simply let be. It lives in the gentle space between acceptance and hope. The greatest truths I have gained did not arrive in triumph. They arrived in surrender, in nights where I whispered to life, "I do not understand you, but I trust you." In mornings where I rose not with certainty, but with quiet faith. I no longer seek a life that is flawless. I seek a life that is honest, one where I can look at my journey, with all its breaks and beginnings, and feel no shame, only gratitude. I began to see that grace is not something we earn. It is something we grow into. It is the way we soften after being hardened, the way we choose kindness, even with our scars, the way we offer understanding, even when we never received it. Once I feared aging. I feared losing time. But now I understand. Time was never mine to lose. It was mine to learn from. Every year did not take something from me. It gave me something I could never have found without it. Clarity in confusion, strength in surrender, peace in imperfection, truth in silence. Growing older is not fading. It is unveiling. It is the slow, sacred return to who we were always meant to be. And if this is what time gives, then I no longer fear its passing. For I have not been losing years. I have been gaining truth.